A pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Coles Brown. Here's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Southern University basketball teams are closing in on the regular season championships. Southern women's basketball team, I just simply call it the Tallahassee Miracle this past Thursday. We'll get into what happened in that basketball game. The Southern Heritage Classic, what's the deal? It is unofficially back. We'll tell you the latest on the two participants that are going to participate in the Southern Heritage Classic. So that's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Now bring in a abbreviated panel. They'll join us one by one. Coach Vann, Pettaway, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. Good morning, Coach Pettaway. I see they have you sitting in the same seat I sat in 7 days ago out in that corridor.
Yes, sir. And I feel blessed, man. I'm blessed.
Yeah, on the SWAC Digital Network call. A.D. Willa Brown won't be joining us today. Had a family situation.
Yeah.
We just asked your thoughts and prayers with A.D. Willa Brown. He said he will definitely join us next week. With that being said, guys, let's get right into it. What's trending? Southern basketball teams are closing in on regular season championships for the men. According to my calculation, Charles, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, a win this evening at Bethune-Cookman, and that pretty much wraps it up for Southern University. On the women's side, because of some help, well, we don't want to say help. We don't want to say help. We want to just say with something pleasurable that happened to Southern University. The Tallahassee Miracle, they're closing in on the regular season championship. Coach Pettaway, you've been in this position as a coach. Charles, as an announcer, you've been in this position. Southern University closing in on the regular season championships. However, I still don't feel, Coach Pettaway, I don't feel extremely excited because I guess there's still more work to be done.
Well, on the men's side, I think the players and Coach Johnson should already feel how close they are. And I think this trip today is going to be very important for them. I mean, remember I told you a couple of weeks ago, I felt like if they could split on the road, on this road trip, and if they could just win at home, that championship is theirs. And I think I'm like you. If my math serves me correct, if they win this game today, mathematically, they at least got a tie, if I'm not mistaken, Charles. So it's there. They can see it. Whether they want to talk about it or not, they're still looking at one game at a time. But it's there for the taking. All they got to do, man, is just go out and do it. They have proven during the course of the year that they're the most consistent men's team that's out there. So everybody else, to me, will be playing for 2 through 6, in my opinion, because I think the bottom half of the draw, I think is there. I think 10, 9, they know who they are. And so I'm just thinking that with everything that's at stake, I think the Jaguars will be ready to play today.
Charles?
Yeah, I mean, the math adds up. I mean, you have a 3-game lead over Jackson State. You have the tiebreaker over Jackson State by virtue of that triple overtime win. So you're 4 games up with 4 to play. So a combination of a Southern win or a Jackson loss, you'll be the regular season champs. Pretty simple from that standpoint. And look, Southern has been the team. I mean, we talked about the little hiccups and the other stuff, but Southern has fought through that, and they've gotten back on track. And look, Southern's been solid from start to this point. And so I think without a doubt, Southern is in really good shape for the number 1 seed. But that 2 all the way through round 6 or 7.
Yep.
Where the real fun starts. You got Jackson, half game up on Bethune-Cookman, Texas Southern, Alabama State, which has been now the surprise. Florida A&M, and of course the Braves, a team that's finished the last 3 years, 2 years in a row, 1 seed. Last year we were the 2 seed, and right now we're the 7 seed. Landon Bussey has guaranteed that we will not be the 7 seed. He has guaranteed that. He said he guaranteed that. Now somebody threw a little shot out there and said that could mean that he could be an 8 seed, a 9 seed. I mean, you know how people are. Coach Pettaway, people looking at, okay, well, then he might drop. But I think we know what he means. He feels like we could move up. And right now at 8-6, we don't have the tiebreaker on FAMU. They beat us twice. We got the tiebreaker on Alabama State. They could drop. So there's a chance there. The math does add up there. But we got to get back on track if we're going to finish above 7. That means that we're in that Tuesday tournament date. And that's not something I'm looking forward to. And I think quiet as it kept, I don't think Landon Bussey is looking forward to that either. But you gotta get back on the horse if you want to avoid that.
Right. And then today, with Jackson State playing Texas Southern, somebody's gonna cancel each other out today now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody with them meeting today, somebody's gonna cancel. One or the other is gonna be out of the running in terms of moving up for seeding purposes.
Well, I guess I gave the kiss of death to FAMU because you remember last week I said, in our bold statement, I said FAMU would be the number 2 seed, and
Nope.
my cousin, she let me have it. She said Jackson State will be the number 2 seed, and now I'm starting to look at it that way. So sorry, FAMU, I gave you the kiss of death, and it just shows, as Coach Pettaway said, the team that's been the most consistent, Charles Alcorn State. I was listening to the end of the broadcast, and particularly, let me switch to the women. The women is a perfect example. As you alluded to, they've defeated the 3 top teams in the conference, right? But then they've had some bad losses, and so I think I texted you, I said consistently inconsistent with Alcorn State. And Coach Gilbert said when healthy, they could beat anybody. And so when you go to the tournament, everybody starts 0-0. So everybody has a shot to get it done. But something Coach Pettaway said, the most consistent, that's the team that you're going to see will win the regular season championship. I also came out with a bold statement 2 weeks ago. Coach Pettaway, am I being a little arrogant? I don't know. I said Southern men basketball team will not fold at the end like the previous years. And some of you out there on social media, you just knew that they were going to do like previous seasons and don't finish. That's the word. I told you. Boy, I'm hot with my bold predictions, Coach Pettaway.
Right, but see, I agree with you on that. And then this is what Jag Nation has to look. They have not folded. They're still playing. They're still winning basketball games. Now, if you're expecting them to be this big dominant team, no, that's not their style. They're not built that way. They're built. Yeah. They're built to win basketball games because they grind you out. They play tenacious defense, and their bench is so deep. He can go deep into the bench, and he can wear teams down. So from that standpoint, Jag Nation, they just need to settle down, take a chill pill, because Coach Johnson knows what he's doing. He's got those kids in the right position. With these games left, all he has to do is win 2 of these games, and he's guaranteed to be the number 1 seed and walk away with a championship. So I just think that the road to the championship is a little bit easier for him. Now, on your women's side, I'm going to be honest, Carlos. I think it's going to come down to Alabama, that game against A&M.
In Baton Rouge.
Yes. I think on the women's side, the championship game is going to come down to that.
He says, Carlos, good morning. Just eye wink. 400 miles away from Tallahassee next time. But FAMU was playing pretty good, pretty solid.
Yep.
But once again, that's what I say. You have to be consistent. And boy, they've had a couple of losses since the last time we talked. But it all started, if I can, guys, go back to a game that I was very nervous about because traditionally going up to Grambling, Louisiana, it's tough, right? It's extremely tough. On the women's side, and I got a chance, shout out to Swag Digital Network across the board, outstanding. Southern University was all over Grambling State, 70-47. Now, I'm not shocked that they won, although I thought it was going to be very difficult, but by the margin.
Yes,
It was a complete blowout. Southern University shot 45% from the field. From the three-point behind the arc, they were 60%. That's one of their better shooting percentages from the three-point behind the arc. And then from the charity stripe, they were 18-23 for 78%. Dakia Sanders, 15 points. They had 4 young ladies in double digits in scoring. That was very impressive. And quietly as it's kept, Coach Funches has done an outstanding job. Now, their road has been a little bit harder than the men's side. And you might can go and pinpoint, here we go, Charles, to that loss at home to Alcorn State. I think it maybe, kind of gave them a wake-up call, if you can say it that way. But they go in there, and their arch rival, 70-57, as we put the paper down on this side. And then this past Thursday night, 65-63. Did you hear about the Tallahassee Miracle?
Yeah. Yeah.
75-63. And I'm gonna quote my source here. Brian Fulford. I didn't want to tease him or anything like that. I basically asked him what happened. And FAMU was leading by 3 points with about 32 seconds to play at the free throw line, shooting 2. FAMU player missed both free throws. On the return trip down the court, Southern hit a wide open 3 with 29 seconds left. Then, and sorry about this, EA. Then they tried to run the clock down for the last shot and actually scored and got fouled with 4 seconds left to play. She missed a free throw. Off the rebound, Southern pushes the ball up the sideline, and as the shooter was about to jack a 3, she gets fouled by a FAMU player flying by her. Now, it seems to be some kind of skepticism with that. Was it actually a foul? But that's what they called. Southern player missed the first free throw, but she makes the next 2. The score is tied at 63 with 2.3 seconds left. Timeout, and FAMU advances to their half of the court. They couldn't inbound the ball, and Southern stole a pass. We foul the girl on the steal, and she makes both free throws. Ball game. Now, I'm not going to tell you about the emojis that Brian Fulford sent through this text message, but it was a miracle. Oh, here we go, G-Bone. Swag refs. Okay. Okay. See, now, Coach Pettaway, there's this conspiracy that's been started by somebody. Black College Sports Network.
No. They need to stop that now.
Yeah, Southern pays off the refs. Southern has a
no. Well, they had to pay off some players too because with the game tied, you didn't have to foul now with 2 seconds left on the clock. Even though you couldn't inbound the ball, you still didn't have to make a foul. If you don't foul, you go into another overtime. So come on now. Come on.
Well, and then I'm being facetious there because, it's Southern gets all the calls in the basketball game. Shame on you for saying that and thinking that.
But I'm serious. I think if the Rattlers don't foul, now you go into the second overtime, and then it could be a different outcome.
Good point. Valid point. Good point.
Right.
Charles?
And even based on the way you described it, you foul in the act going down the sideline there. Coaches teach you, I'm sure Coach Pettaway, you just got to be solid right there. You cannot put the game in the hands of the officials to make that call. There's got to be, I see it all the time. you can be solid without being that tight. So let the officials make that call in that situation. If that happens, they don't even get to overtime. So I think, just some sort of awareness in the final 10 seconds of the game probably would have given FAMU the win. Because I was following it, second by second. I mean, because FAMU Southern was down. I mean, that's one where they stole victory from the jaws of defeat. I mean, every year you're gonna get games like we were up 20 against FAMU and lost. You go get one of those. Then there's some games in which we were down, in which we found a way to pull out. So that's one that Southern got, and that was a big one.
Yeah, but you know what though? But I'm serious. A lot of times in situation basketball, we as coaches, we try to go over different scenarios that you're going to see down the stretch. You try to practice them so your kids will know that. But you never know. A lot of times with the feel of the game, sometimes our kids they'll make a foul. They'll do things that you didn't practice or what you practice against. So that's just part of it, fellas. And Florida A&M let a big one get away. That gave the Southern Nation should be happy, because now that puts them in a great spot with an opportunity to try to win a conference championship. And so if Coach Funches wins the conference championship, when he gets his bonus, all he has to do is just break off a little bit for the FAMU Rattlers. That's all. That's all he has to do.
Oh, Coach Pettaway. And the Rattlers are watching it in the chat room. Oh boy.
Yeah. I feel sorry for Brian them. They had to sit there and witness. And Charles, we were like you, man. We had a broadcast going, but we were keeping up with that game, man. And then with 2 seconds to go, we said, well, it's over with. Southern lost. And then when we look up again, by the time Coach gets over at the table, Southern won the game. And we looking at each other like, how could that happen? But now we know.
Well, it could be that old magic there. But and Coach, that's a good point, because I do believe the coaches go over those scenarios.
Oh yeah.
And you don't know how a person will act, or a player will act. But then it's like, well, okay, they're not teaching them that. I'm sure they should be able to inbound the ball. Yeah, they go over scenarios all the time. That's what I thought from a non-coaching perspective.
Right, we do that, but a lot of times, even like a timeout. This is a true story. I'm up by 1. I'm at home. I call a timeout, and I say, hey, fellas, all we got to do is defend for 12 seconds, and we got to win. Do you know one of my starting guards went straight on the floor and fouled the kid? In fact, the first time he hit him, the referee looked at him, and then he did it again, so he had to call it. So I lost the game coming out of a timeout after letting the players know, fellas, okay, we up by 1. All we got to do is defend. Get the defensive rebound. If they miss it, it's over with. But sometimes players walking from that bench to that court, they may have a brain cramp. And that's what happened that night. And we lost that doggone game, man. We lost the game. So stuff like that happens, man. It's a part of athletics. It's a part of human nature that we make mistakes. We have mental blocks. It's not just players have mental blocks. We as coaches, we have them too now.
Yeah.
We have them too during the course of a game, during the course of a season. Sometimes our mental blocks don't hurt us. Other times, they come back and bite us.
Well, and I went on to tell Brian Fulford that I think FAMU's basketball program, I think in a couple of years she'll have them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And Brian's answer was, fingers crossed. Boy, FAMU alumni base is just as tough as Southern's.
Right. This time of the year, most of them are, Carlos.
Yeah.
This time of the year, most of them are.
Yeah. So,
well, if you look at Florida A&M and what's happened this season, I mean, they lose an overtime game to Alcorn here, in which the Lady Braves only get up 1 shot attempt, but it was 12 for 12 from the free throw line. That was a tough loss. The Southern game was a tough loss. They lose 70-67 to Alabama A&M. they lose a 40-37 game. So, I mean, you get a couple more of those wins. I mean, 3 of those 4, those are just a handful of games I'm naming right there. FAMU's kind of been on the cusp for Coach Gordon in her second season. So I've seen them twice up close and personal. They have some pieces, but learning how to win and finish games. You hear that quite often, and I think that's probably an issue for Florida A&M this season, trying to close out games. And if they can turn that around in the tournament, they could be a tough out. But this season they've had some games in which they've let slip through their fingers.
And
I think they're a tough team. I think they're a team that nobody's going to want to see in the tournament. And also, I think Alcorn, a lot of teams don't want to see Alcorn in that tournament now. Now the upper echelon, like here at Jackson State, they know they're going to be ready to play. But I'm talking about teams coming from out of nowhere like Alcorn and Florida A&M. Nobody wants to see them, man. Nobody, Alcorn has that experience. They made it to the championship game last year. A lot of those players are still there. And to me, as long as they got Destiny Brown and she's got her right mind, that's a tough out, man. They're a tough out.
Yeah. For selfish reasons, if Southern and Alcorn got together again, why do you think I would want to see that? Although the tradition, they're tough against Southern, but after that home loss, just bring it.
Bring them on.
Just bring it. That's the fan part of me, okay?
Yeah.
Jackson State kind of went suddenly on a losing streak. Purview comes into Jackson and takes them out, takes them down. So this tournament, I think, is going to be exciting. It's going to be wild. Some people are predicting upsets across the spectrum. Willis says, Carlos, the women should be undefeated. We have been up late all games except FAMU game. Oh, Willis a tough Southernite there. He wants perfection.
Yeah.
And Brian thinks they're gonna that the FAMU is gonna rebound. So it's gonna be an interesting tournament, man. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, these last couple of weeks of the season, I think it's gonna be great, and it's gonna give us a lot of momentum going into Atlanta.
And it's going to be exciting as well. Like I said, I don't know about a whole lot of wild upsets. It could happen, but I will say this. My bold statement is it's going to be exciting. That's bold and a conservative comment. On the men's side, then we'll go to a timeout. Southern University, men, 71-64 over Grambling State University. And hats out to Jordan Johnson. 6 of 7 from beyond the arc. And the one he missed, it was literally in, and it came out. Jaguars shot 44% from the field, from behind the arc. They were 56%. And free throws still. And Coach Johnson has talked about as a team, they need to get to that 70% as a team. They were 10 of 16 for 62.5% last Saturday. Tough environment. Jaguars came in. They led from start to finish. At one point, they were so hot from beyond the arc. Now, this Grambling State team, if I'm not mistaken, guys, they were picked to win it on the men's side, right?
Yes.
And on the women's side, I believe the women were picked. So that leads me up to this again, Charles. During the week, you said Coach Kilbert talked about last week. We were talking about maybe the Coach of the Year, and I read his comments, at least what you text me about. I still think it's going to go as whoever wins the regular season. That's going to be the Coach of the Year. And if you do it any other way, just my opinion, then you open up Pandora's box, because some people will believe, well, wait a minute, say if a team that was picked 7th or 8th, they end up getting, say, 2nd place or 3rd, then they should be considered for Coach of the Year, correct? Because of what they've done. But then I think if you do it that way, I mean, you can have a discussion on it. I think the safe way is still to award it to the regular season champion. That's just my opinion. Now, I would sit down and listen to people who would try to convince me otherwise. The scenario where it should be considered coach of the year in multiple benchmarks, all ultimate criteria. But with that being said, I still think it's the best way to do it is the way it continues to be.
Yeah.
Regular
Right.
season,
But I'm serious.
regular season
I
champ.
think on the men's side, for the most part, that's what they've been doing.
Right.
The winner of the conference championship is named the coach of the year.
Yeah.
And then that's what they've been doing for years on the men's side. Now that could change in the future, but I think that is a good testament of what's going on if the coach of the year is the person that wins the championship. But there are scenarios like what you just talked about, Carlos, where a team was picked toward the bottom and they either come up and finish in second, or let's say they win it. Then yeah, I think they deserve. It's automatic if they win it that you're going to get the championship. I mean that you're going to get the coach of the year award. But you got different people with different feelings on who should be at the top. And I know on the men's side at one time. We had a big argument about the most valuable player of the league.
Oh boy!
Because I can remember one year I finished, I think, second, and I had one of the players in the top 5 in rebounding and points. But a guy that finished on the last place team became the MVP of our league, and that was a joke. That was a joke. That should never happen because if the kid was the MVP of the league, then his team shouldn't have been in last place. And then so we as coaches, we got together that spring because as the SWAC voted the kid the MVP, but all of the other outside people that voted for SWAC Player of the Year, they didn't pick that kid. That kid was nowhere in their rankings when it came to the MVP for the SWAC. And so that was back then, that was sort of a black eye for us. And we talked about it that spring, and we said from then on that the MVP had to be either on the first place team or the second place team. We were never going to the bottom to pull up another MVP. Yeah. And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I would agree.
Yeah. I will say, Carlos, that just in talking with our coach about that, and just we have conversations about different things, and that was one of them.
I understand.
He believes that on the women's side, it will revert back to where your regular season, the team that wins the regular season, that coach will get coach of the year. But over the last several years, it's not automatic that just because your team, if for example, the conversation we had about Coach Funches, Southern has been picked to finish. I don't know where they were expecting. Where were they picked to finish in the preseason? Third, was it? I don't know what it was.
I want to say second or third, but second
or third. Okay. So if he wins the regular season, there could be some conversation about, well, this was expected anyway. So it would be kind of a dig in terms of the way the process is now. If you're picked to finish second and you finish first, you're kind of expected to be there anyway. But the conversation we had last week about Coach Skeet in Texas Southern, where they were picked versus where they were last week, which was at the top of the league, they could slide a little bit here. They got Jackson today. And so if they slide to fourth, for example, does that take her name out of the running for coach of the year? You go from you picked 8th, 9th, and you finish 4th. That's a 4-5 spot jump. Does that qualify that? Or when you have maybe somebody like Dawn Brown, for example, they still have a shot to win the regular season. Does that bring her name into the conversation? Considering what the Lady Braves did with Texas Southern the other night. So it's on the women's side, it's a little bit different. But on the men's side, it's rock solid. The regular season team that coach wins the coach of the year. But there was a coach a few years ago, maybe Dr. Craville or somebody can help me with it, and even Coach Kilbert referenced the coach of the year. That team did not. They finished higher than expected, and that coach won the coach of the year because of their place in their finish. So I think for the women's side, it may revert back to that. So I think someone can look that up for me. But he did mention that there was a coach that won Coach of the Year that did not win the regular season championship, but was a great improvement from where they were expected to be finished.
I bet you that was before Coach Reed now. I bet you that was before Coach Reed at Jackson, because I think every year she won it, she was the Coach of the Year.
Yeah. You know, again, I stand by it. Just go ahead and give it to the red. Wait a minute. So it's different for the women. It's not a uniform. Why is that? Well, why is that?
I'm trying to think. I just think they made a decision as coaches, because the coaches vote to change that process, and the conference is going to go along with it. I mean, all the coaches, once the coaches vote for the change, the conference is going to implement it. I just think that there was probably conversation years ago about, what about a coach that was picked to finish 10th and they finished in second? Should they not be considered? And I think just among the coaches at the time when that vote happened several years ago, I think there was just probably an indication it just shouldn't be that obvious, even though we as fans believe it should be that obvious. I think the coaches at the time, and there have been some changes there in terms of coaches, at that time, the coaches felt like it shouldn't be that automatic. And I think that's what happened. They voted to not make it as automatic as you win the regular season. And that's why there's been one time in which a coach has not won the regular season, but won the Coach of the Year. That's just on the women's side. So, again, Coach Kilbert mentioned it because he remembered it. I remember it too. I just don't remember which coach that was. Maybe somebody can help me out with it. But it has happened before in the last several years, probably like you said, Coach Pettaway, before Coach Reed, because she's dominated that award. Yeah. But it has happened once before.
And even like now with what Coach Richards has done here at JSU, she should be in consideration, because you got to remember now, she came in with an entirely new team, and she's had her team in the top echelon of the conference all year.
Well, can we just have a feel-good special recognition of somebody whose team was picked 7 to 8 and they get third? Give them special recognition, and then but just move on to the regular season on both sides. The regular season champion was the Coach of the Year. Give them a special recognition and then move on. I'm just concerned. All of the, I'm just surprised it wasn't. Dr. Phil says the conference we have done it.
Yes, both ways.
Both ways.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, if the example I used last week, then Coach Johnson last year they faded toward the end. Southern was picked 6. What did they finish? Second or third? So special recognition from me, Coach Johnson. But no, you shouldn't be the Coach of the Year. Should not be. Now that's on the men's side. That's just me. I know some will disagree with that. It's like in society now. We've had that discussion when we were growing up, Coach Pettaway and Charles. The first, say, like in Little League baseball, first team, they won it all, they get the trophy. Second place, it was you were almost there. Better luck next year. But now everybody gets a trophy for participation. 4th, 3rd, 2nd. I think you should stick to just a regular season champion. Gets the Coach of the Year award and his great staff.
Well, this time last week, it just shows you how things change in this league. Remember, we talked about Coach Carey and Florida A&M. They were trending upward, and then they hit the Alabama buzzsaw. They lost to Alabama State twice. That loss to Alabama A&M was a surprise to me, Coach Pettaway, because we have not talked about Alabama A&M all year. Right. They've been in purgatory all year long, and it's not a knock. They just haven't been up. There hasn't been much to talk about, and then bam, they knock off Florida A&M. And so, could this be Alabama A&M making that push like they did last year when they knocked off the 2-seed Alcorn? Could this be their time in which they're making a little bit of a push and show people, don't forget about us?
Right. Well, see, they got Alabama State today, and anytime you play in Montgomery, anything may happen out there. They'll cut the lights off on you down there. So, you got
that's a little shot there, Coach Pettaway. I know that's y'all rival.
But Carlos, it happened, man. It happened. We were
Yeah.
rolling, man. We was rolling, and then the lights went out. Everything went dark on us. Yeah. But no, they've been Alabama A&M men's team has been very inconsistent this year. And they attribute that to injuries, a lot of new pieces. But the new piece part, I think they got to stop putting that out there, because there are a lot of teams in this league right now that are doing pretty good with a lot of new pieces. FAMU men on one side, Jackson State women on another side. The remake of Alabama A&M's women's team, they got all new players. So saying that you got a new team where they're not familiar with each other this time of the year, this is just like a second season, so they should know each other by now. So that you can't use that anymore, I feel, as a coach. You got to start looking at other ways. But this is going to be an interesting 2 weeks, though. I'm serious. I think the only clear-cut thing we might see by the end of the week, by Monday night, you might have a men's champion on the men's side, but I don't think you're going to have one on the women's side. I think it's going to come down to that last weekend. And if I'm not mistaken, Alabama A&M and Southern might be having a Saturday showdown.
I'll be there in person for that one. Oh, wait a minute. They play on. No, wait a minute. They play on a Monday night, right?
No.
At the end of the season, it doesn't matter.
Thursday, Saturday.
Right. Yeah, it's Thursday, Saturday at the end of the last week. Yeah.
I'll make that one. And guys at Alabama State, men, drop a game. Guess what? Let's see if you agree with this, Coach Pettaway. Alabama State is very tough at home. We know that.
Yep. Yes.
But how are they on the road?
And if he gets those physically, they play good defense, so they're gonna always be in games. And I think if you get Matlock going, and oh my God, if you get the kid going to the basket, it's over with. Yeah. But I all right, Hunt, you got me. Listen, but they're a very scary team too on the men's side now. You're not gonna want to see them.
Yeah.
You're not gonna want to see them now, because their guards play downhill, Charles. Yep.
I was shocked at how well they shoot the three. I mean, they came in here and they have no fear from beyond the arc. They hit a big three against A&M in Huntsville, which helped them win that game. Florida A&M, I think they won on a three against FAMU and Tallahassee. They're really, really good from beyond the arc. And so if they get that going and they go downhill, I mean, I don't think a lot of people talking about Alabama State, but they beat one of the top teams in the league. They gave us trouble. I think Alabama State is a team that you're going to have to keep an eye on. I just don't think, Southern University is good. They're going to have to earn it, of course. But, 2 through 10, it could be anybody's ball game. And I think, you got to look at Valley and Pine Bluff trying to get in the tournament on the men's and women's side, too. There's a battle there at the bottom trying to avoid missing the tournament. So there's something to talk about there, too, here in this last week.
And starting next year, everybody's in. Coach Carrera, I hope you're listening. Carlos has given us a kiss of death last week. Now you should get the feel-good coach. Beat SU with an extension. Oh, boy.
Wow.
That's going to be, I'll stand by it. I'll stand by it. That's still going to be a huge game Monday. And guess what? FAMU is going to remember that 91-57 whipping with an extension card. I was there to witness it. But you know what? They have improved since that point. Yeah, they dropped a couple of games, but you can bet Monday it's going to be popping in that arena. And one of the things, Coach, you've been in this position. When you're on top, you get everybody's best shot.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's best shot. But what I like about this team, you don't have a 20-point score. You don't have 18. But Southern University is deep. They're tough as nails. And guess what? You're going to fight to the end. Like that Alabama State game. Their only loss, a 1-point loss.
Yeah.
Right.
There for the taking. But anyway, when the tournament starts, wipe the slate clean. Wipe the slate clean. On that note, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Charles, the Southern Heritage Classic. What's the deal?
I got you.
And since Will Brown is not here, I'm sure we got into a light discussion during the week on this topic. So we're going to bring that topic to the show. And
I have breaking news on that, Carlos. Got breaking news. Got breaking news.
Quick question. Is it official now? Yes or no?
Do we need to take a break on that? Do you need to take a break right now?
Okay. We'll take a break and come back.
Yeah.
And that'll be the question I'm asked. Is it official? You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Oh, I love that.
Yes,
I love
yes.
that. Go Wildcats.
Yep.
And by the way, wow, Southern's at Bethune-Cookman today. What a coincidence.
Mhm.
What a coincidence.
That's going to be a tough out, Carlos. The Wood Gym is nothing to play with. I think they're doing a $100,000 fundraiser. Coach Pettaway, I thought about you. When they thought about that $100,000 fundraiser to do the Wood Gym, I said, are they going to just buy seat backs, or are they going to do a whole bunch of other stuff with that? Because
You ain't gonna get nothing done for $100,000.
Oh,
to put my seats in, it cost us right at $400,000. So, and look how long ago that was. So that's a Band-Aid, man. That's like kissing a pig. You ain't gonna see much difference on that, man. Not for $100,000.
And Coach Pettaway, the prices are much more expensive now. Material, all kind of stuff. I want to say this. I love what's going on in the chat room. They're discussing about what we're talking about, Coach of the Year. Some said it's been done both ways. Yeah. We always refer to Dr. Cavill with his knowledge of what's going on. But guess what? I'm still sticking to my position.
Right.
It should be the regular season, and all of this feel good stuff I'm watching in there. This scenario, that scenario. Yeah, they should be considered up for discussion.
Right.
And
And,
I know the go ahead, Coach Pettaway.
no. I was going to tell you, yeah. See, we just finished Black History Month, but there are some things that I want us to consider in the future, like for next year's Black History Month. Carlos, I sent you all some information on the Black High School National Championship.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to look further into that because that's a piece of our history that we all need to be thinking about and keep it going. Because when and I'm gonna tell you how that came about. This guy walked up to me right before my broadcast the other night, Charles, and he said, "Hey, Coach, I think we might be related, right?" So he just started talking to me, and then he started naming people that, yes, I might be related to this guy. His last name is Hall, right? But he was
Mm-hmm.
bringing up, and then he brought up the Black National Championship that the high schools used to be in. And when you look at that piece, I mean, it's a lot there now. And I got down to maybe page 260 or so. There are teams from each of our states that were represented in those national championship games. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. I even think they got Will in them in there because there were some teams from Baltimore. And that's something I would like for us, not today. I'm talking about in the future, especially like leading up to next year for Black History Month. Carlos, I want us to really look at that, man, because we're walking and we're doing things on the backs of what those people did years ago. You know, we're where we are today because of the people that made those sacrifices back during that time. And I just think that's just something that we just need to look at. And Carlos, thank you for me saying that. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. And I'm a belief in Black history. It's just not 1 month out of the year. It's
Right.
every day. So,
Yep.
brother, we don't have to wait till next Black History, 2026. We can do this much sooner than that.
I got you, Carlos. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. And we can involve some people who have those great research skills
Right.
as well. And particularly right here at the Black College Sports Network. So
Yes.
But as
Southern Heritage, yeah, classic.
Yeah, Charles, let's jump to that because time is flying by.
Yep.
What's the latest? What's the deal?
Well, I was trying to get, and I read all the information on social media. I've seen the news release. I've seen all the information. People are excited about Alcorn participating in the Southern Heritage Classic. But then I got me thinking, I ain't heard any scuttlebutt. I mean, usually when stuff happens, you get some scuttlebutt on the streets. A little bird tells you something, right? So I went back and I talked to our athletic director at our football signing party. He talked about the football schedule. He did reference the fact that there might be a little tweak in the schedule, but he didn't go into any more details. So when this information came out on social media about the Southern Heritage Classic, I reached out and I got a text back. And this text was as follows. It's UAPB's home game. And currently, we, Alcorn, are in discussions on finalizing the details of the game so that both schools can benefit from it. So what that says is that as of 11:51 Central Standard Time, using your phrase, Carl, it is not official.
Not official.
It is not official. Are we working towards making it official? Yeah. But as of this point, as of this day, as of this time, it is not. Our name has come up for this game before. This is not the first time. Jackson State, backed out of it. Our name has come up, for playing in Memphis. But this has been years ago. And look, it's Pine Bluff's home game. We're not playing them on their homecoming. So I get it. If it happens, then fine. But of course, details are being worked out. Obviously, the financial piece, there's guarantees involved. Pine Bluff's getting something. We'll get something. Our band now the question is, will our band be there? I don't know if I've been told our band usually doesn't come to Pine Bluff, but because this is a classic, it's in Memphis. Our band might come, so there's an extra expense there. So I think just some of the numbers, the financials, the particulars are still being worked out. But as of this moment, it is not official, despite what you're seeing, despite the news reports coming out of Memphis from a very good source. It is not official at this point in time.
Right. Well, Charles, do you think the game will, with Pine Bluff, and let's say Pine Bluff and Alcorn do commit to the game, is that a draw in Memphis?
I think it will be because first of all, we have a very good alumni base in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Our National Alumni Conference, we switch around in different places from year to year. It's been in Memphis. So I think anywhere from Jackson up North Mississippi, Arkansas, Nashville would probably be interested in the game. So I think our fans would love Memphis because it's Memphis, number one, Beale Street and all that. I think our fans would love it because I've seen the social media reaction like, hey, Memphis, here I come. Memphis is not cheap from what, we took a family trip to Memphis and I didn't realize going down Beale Street for the first time in my life, it cost me $10 to walk down Beale Street. I don't know if that's the case now or not.
Oh, come on, $10, Charles.
I'm thinking Beale Street's like Bourbon Street. Does it cost you $10 to walk down Bourbon Street? I didn't realize that. I didn't know. So, but anyway, Memphis is a good draw. I think our fans will be looking forward to it. And I retweeted something from Tanner Spearman, who covers UAPB for the Pine Bluff commercial. It's a big recruiting area for UAPB, so it makes sense for them. It's their home game. What kind of draw would it be if it was played at Golden Lion Stadium? I think it makes sense for UAPB, to be in that game. For us, it's just expenses. Football team will be staying in Little Rock, about the same distance. So we would come out of it, with a couple of dollars in our pocket. What the guarantee would be, I don't know if the band's included in it or not. So there's some, and that's kind of why it's probably not official, because those things are probably still being discussed as we speak, whether the band will be there, just the cost aspect of it, because it's not cheap for a football team to travel 3 buses, meals, hotel. It's not cheap. So all that, my guess, is being negotiated. And look, we have a pretty steep process to approve contracts here at Alcorn State University. We have a university compliance office that must approve any contracts with any hotels, even if the women's basketball team goes to Huntsville and stays in a hotel for 2 or 3 days. Our university compliance office must approve that contract. You're talking about 15 rooms, a conference room, whatever the cost is. There's a process for those type of things to get approved before you can make that trip. So that's probably in the mix as well. Our university compliance office is involved. And I get it. Checks and balances. You want to make sure everything is what it's supposed to be. So just my guess, that's probably why it's not official as of yet. Just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. But it's on its way to that. But as of 11:55 Central Standard Time, Carlos, it's not official.
And I would be a tough negotiator. They would hate to see me come because my job is to get the most I can for the university. And I've got to kick, bite, scratch, hit you when your back is turned. I'll do that. Whatever it needs to be done. Go ahead, Coach Pettaway.
No, Carlos, I was going to tell you they're calling for me. I'm gonna have to go, man. But
okay,
I hope the Southern. I hope they do pull it off, man. Because Memphis really supports that game. And so I hope both universities look at that and go up. That's a great recruiting tool for both institutions. In fact, as we speak now, Alabama A&M is in Memphis now recruiting. Our president is up in Memphis right now recruiting on one of the senior days. But gentlemen, I will be back next week, but I got to go get this done right now. And you all be blessed, and I'll see you next week.
All right. We appreciate you, Coach Pettaway. Boy, a couple of I don't know, Charles, you saw the comments, one by Dr. Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last comment, we can put it back up, or I can look at it over here.
Yeah. Is the price
Charles
right?
is right. It was not for Coach Prime.
Well, I think for that situation, we know what Coach Prime was about. He was about the dollar, and he felt like Jackson State's brand was worth more than what was being paid in years past. I'm sure he was able to dig up how much Jackson was getting for that game. And you're talking about the attention and all that. So I get where he was going with that in that time. I mean, just look, if this game was played in Pine Bluff, we would be out of hotel. We'd be out. I mean, that's the expense that we would be out of. But I think because this is a classic, you want our band to be there because that's all a part of these HBCU classics, as we know. So that's our band hadn't been going to Pine Bluff in the past, from my understanding. So this is something a little bit different, as if the game was in Pine Bluff. So I think you got to add that in the toolbox as well. But again, I had heard, I hadn't heard a little bit of anything about this game. But then when I saw the social media posts, and I'm like, okay, and I really didn't have time the last couple of days to dig into it. But then you see more of the videos from the news stations, and I'm like, okay, hadn't heard anything about it. But then that's why I text the source and just to see, because I haven't really got the information on it. But right now, I mean, it's heading that way. It's heading towards a resolution. But as of right now, again, there's checks and balances that we have that's probably a little bit more than other schools, just to make sure that we're getting what we're supposed to get when we're supposed to get it. Again, we got a compliance office, university compliance, that handles all contracts. I have a contract with our engineer that goes to university compliance, and they're asking 1,000,001 questions. But that's what compliance is all about. They want to make sure the university is not getting screwed. They want to make sure you're getting your best bang for the buck. So my guess is, just knowing what goes on here, that's probably kind of the holdup. It's leaning towards a resolution. It looks like it's heading that way, but as of right now, nothing is official from this end. Maybe UAPB has dotted all the I's, and I saw the post from Dr. Cavill, probably a little bit more deeper dive than me. But as someone who kind of represents the university a little bit, can speak on it, the text that I got from a very good source is that it's not done from the purple and gold side of things.
From the outside looking in, I think somebody brought it up. What will be the fan support? It's UAPB's home game. Alcorn basically would not make anything, right, if that game was played at UAPB, at their stadium. So now, from their perspective, they're going to make something, you know. But again, that comes in the negotiating part. I would be hard on getting the most that I can. Now, if it was two other teams, if it was, say, what's a closer team? Jackson's. Well, we can't use Jackson State anymore. But let's say if it was Alcorn and Alabama A&M. Say Alabama A&M decided to move their home game to Memphis. To me, and I'm not trying to step on toes, that's a more marketable game, more interest for someone who is not an alum of either team. You know, the walk-up crowd. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. And then to the points that in the chat room someone brought up, the history of that promoter and stuff, and how it went sour before. It's something to take all of that into account when the final decision is made. But I understand you're saying it's moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Dr. Bill said the contracts have been signed. So that's the latest.
Yeah, and just it's trending in the right direction. But as of right now, I mean, just based on the text that I got from a very good source that knows the ins and outs of these type of things, it's not quite done yet. Would I put a couple of dollars out there and say that is it going to get done? Yeah. But I think it's leaning in that direction. But as of right now, just the source I got, very good, that understands these dynamics. Not quite there yet, but I think we are getting there. And look, this is the first time I've talked about it. You know, I'm a fan of the SWAC. I want to see us all eat. I want to see us all do well. I just really hate that game. And I've never been to the Jackson Tennessee State game when it was there, but it was a big deal. And for it to go from where it was, and I understand prices go up, things go up, guarantees go up. I hate that because I thought it was perfect. You know, it's about as good as perfect as can be. Tennessee State from Nashville to Memphis is 200 plus miles, and from Jackson to Memphis is 200 miles. Thought it made perfect sense to me, but obviously there's expenses involved, and it didn't work out. Now, from Pine Bluff to Memphis, I think it's 141 miles, if I'm not mistaken. I saw the sign because I've driven that way before. It's like 140, 150 miles, somewhere in there. From Alcorn, it's probably 4 hours. It's probably about the same. But, you know, I think we got a good fan base in Memphis. It's already generating excitement. And from that perspective, If it happens, it's going to make our schedule very interesting now, because now you've got the expense, and I know Wheeler Brown's not on, but we've texted about it. For our fans, you're talking about going to Memphis on the 27th. Our homecoming is the very next week. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to Tallahassee for their homecoming, in which hotel rooms are just expensive as you know what. We're not even staying in Tallahassee. We're staying in Georgia, from what I've been told. So that's about an hour drive. And so they're already working on that. I mean, that's just how it's exciting for Tallahassee, it's exciting for FAMU, but if you're the visiting team, you got some work to do. And we're working on it right now, trying to get all these rooms and get the team booked to go to Georgia probably, for that FAMU game. But it could be an expense going to Memphis for a couple of days, because people gonna make an experience out of it. They're gonna make a weekend out of it, Beale Street and all that. You already know that's gonna happen. But then you got homecoming the next week. 2 weeks later, you go to FAMU and you got to deal with all of that. So from a fan's perspective, it may not matter, but I try to think about it all, the fans and everything, because they're the ones that are supporting this.
Did you have last thing about it? Did they have to change any dates? I don't know why I thought they were playing Mississippi State, but that's not this year, right?
Yeah, we're all playing Mississippi State. We're opening up with Northwestern State, and then Mississippi State. And then we've got a bye week, and then I think we got Alabama A&M in Huntsville. And then after that, then that's the game against UAPB. Our first home game is not until October.
Wow. Tough times, I guess. It's part of the business on this cycle. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I mean, the classic there is, I mean, just think how many classics 15 years ago that we had. And I'm not talking about the Bayou Classic. I'm not talking about the Magic City Classic. I'm just saying just these classics that we've been in. 80 Drew works at Morehouse. We played at Morehouse in the LA Classic in the Coliseum many, many, many years ago, probably 15 years ago. Then you got the classic in St. Louis, the Gateway Classic. Then you got the classic in Indianapolis, the Circle City Classic. We've been to a classic in New Jersey at the old Giant Stadium. I mean, just think of all those classics that we've had that have kind of gone by the boards. You got the Orange Blossom Classic there that's still going. So, these classics are few and far between outside of the traditional ones involving SWAC teams, and so it's a little bit different dynamic now than it was 20 years ago when these classics were plentiful.
Yeah, and that says something. Why is it? You always have to ask the question, why? Why is that the case? What are the factors? It's probably not one factor, it's multiple factors. As I've stated, multiple things can be true at the same time. I know from a business standpoint, talking locally in Baton Rouge, you remember, not to go into the past, but we're going there, moving a game out of Baton Rouge to Jackson, when it was Southern's home game, the legislature got involved. Pretty much told your good friend Tony Clayton, don't you ever do that again. Then you have the local businesses. When that game moves, hey, the university makes some money, but what about the businesses surrounding?
Yeah.
The university, that they look at that too. They get a chance to make some money.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm saying all this to say, when you're doing these kind of deals, make sure you really scrutinizing and looking at every factor, because I often say not all money is good money. Believe it or not, Charles. Can you believe I said that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even last year, we can look at a local example here. Our game last year with Alabama State football was supposed to be right here at Jack Spinks Marino Castle Stadium. We moved it to Mobile. And obviously, from a financial standpoint, we make more money with a guarantee playing down there as being here at home. And we made the decision, and Alabama State made the decision, and, we played it down there. I can say it now because the schedules are out, but there was some discussion of us playing Florida A&M in Mobile for a two-year deal. And it would help both schools to where okay, we're going to Tallahassee this year. Instead of going to Tallahassee, we would go to Mobile. And then next year, instead of FAMU coming here, they would go to Mobile. So it would help both schools in the 2-year cycle, but it didn't happen, obviously. And obviously Florida A&M will be coming here in 2026. So again, these are type of decisions that get made, but you know, the classic games are going to be protected. The classic games, the Bayou Classic will always be the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Alcorn Jackson will always be the Saturday before Thanksgiving. You got the Magic City will be second, third week in October. Those games are I'm sure when the master schedule came out 5 years ago, 6 years ago, those games were protected for those dates because they don't want to change those dates. And so I think that's just something you're talking about classics within the SWAC. Those dates are going to be protected to try to get the most fans and try to generate the most revenue for both schools.
But you know, Charles, if I look from the other side, I guess it's just Alcorn, Lorman. It's wouldn't you classify it a rural area?
Yeah,
A small town is rural. Baton Rouge, mid-sized city, almost 500,000 people. I don't care what the census said because they're breaking off the city in so many places. But you're looking at a different. So from a business standpoint, yeah, Lorman, where Alcorn is situated at, yeah, it's probably to their advantage to move some home games and things like that. But the home and home is still, I think, the best way to go. And if you have to move some of those games, I guess I'm just kind of reality sets in that Alcorn is at the point now where they have to move or consider moving games because they can make more money at a neutral site. You know, Mobile always comes up, a good in between. I remember Southern and FAMU had discussions, but it's a little bit different here. If they're going to move, different situation for Southern. I guess Texas Southern, Dr. Cavill could talk about Houston, a huge city.
mm-hmm.
You know, Tallahassee, probably smaller than Baton Rouge, but not rural. Montgomery, not rural. Huntsville, definitely not rural. Mississippi Valley State, small townish, rural. Pine Bluff, smallish, rural. Well, smallish. I guess those are factors too when you consider all of this. But I guess in a perfect world, it would be nice if Alcorn didn't have to move or consider moving home games. But they got to do what they got to do, I guess, to make money.
You Carlos, if you want to talk about a huge fight between two fan bases when it comes to these games, you talk to Alcornites and you talk to Jacksonians.
Mm-hmm.
For many years, Alcorn and Jackson State was at Memorial Stadium every year.
Yeah,
every year it was. And our president, God rest his soul, put his foot down and said, "We're not doing this anymore. When the game was in Lorman, you're coming to Lorman." This was when Spinks Castle Stadium opened. And so he put his foot down, and ever since, when it's our game, it's here. When it's Jackson's game, it's at the Vet. But you talk to fan bases right now, people complain from Jackson about coming out here. Stadium's not as big as the Vet. Park, we got plenty of land, plenty of space. And so it's our home game. And we're going to play it at home and the revenue that comes with it. And so that conversation right there, Alcorn, Jackson State, I can't speak for the other fan bases. You know, the Magic Cities in Birmingham every year, people love that. Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, it's in wherever, Orlando, wherever, no complaints about that. But you talk about big-time rivalries playing at each school stadium, that's one that still to this day gets conversation, even on social media. Every time the Jackson Alcorn game comes up, when it's at our place, like it was like this past season, you know, got to get there early. You got, don't want to be sitting on the stretch for 3 hours. I mean, but this is our place. This is our stadium. This is our home. This is our home site. We're going to play it at home. But for many years, prior it was in Jackson every single year until our president, Walter Washington, put a stop to it. And it's been that way ever since, even though some people feel like it should go back there because it's beneficial, bigger stadium, bigger venue, hotels and all that. But, our folks aren't buying that. When the game is here, we're going to play it here.
Well, I can understand that. And that's kind of why I'm perplexed. If you're going to move a game and it's well, if it's permanent, then it some would say Jackson State and Alcorn State in Jackson, but then the other half says no, we want to keep that ambiance of the game home and home. So
now, Carlos, you can speak to this. Now, the games that you all had in Arlington, those years when it was in Arlington, that's gone back to home and home, I would imagine. What was that?
Horrible.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, just the whole attitude with that. Texas Southern and Southern are not big rivals, but Arlington, Texas, Dallas, maybe that's the connection of promoter. I don't know. You know more about that than me. So obviously that didn't go as expected.
Horrible, Charles. Horrible. HORRIBLE. And to me, it just seems like, Southern fans, mostly, they had the advantage there, even though it was in Arlington. Now, but I guess without knowing the specific numbers, for Southern to move it, it wasn't for peanuts. It was for peanuts. But I don't know. Just wondering about the Alcorn.
Yeah.
Considering, based on what you said, considering moving a home game because they can make what you said, make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
it was a surprise, the Alabama State one, because let's just be honest about it. Alabama State Alcorn rivalry is not the same as it is for these other rivals. But you would not move a Grambling home game to Mobile or Shreveport, for example. You wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't move an Alabama A&M. Well, you might consider that one because it's not just the synergy, even though the game's at Cruz Stadium, and it doesn't count in the conference, by the way. Our game with Alabama A&M does not count in the conference. The conference doesn't stop you from playing the games, even though it doesn't count on paper. So the game's in Huntsville, and so we'll be going to Cruz Stadium early in the season. That's that's Sam Shade's first game against a SWAC team, from my understanding. But it'll be a good matchup. But that's a decision that the two schools have to make. Conference won't get involved in that, and so this is where we are. But it was kind of a surprise that we would move a game to Mobile. We knew about it in advance, but I thought we would play it at home. But obviously, if you get a promoter involved, and again, our contracts are approved and gone through with a fine-tooth comb, if they see that this you could make a couple more dollars doing this, you do it. And I don't know what other schools would do, but it's not a rivalry game. We know our rivals: Grambling, Jackson, Southern University, Mississippi Valley. We're probably hardly ever going to move those games away from home when it's our home game. I just might guess.
Well, Charles, I will be facetious in this. If Southern approached Alcorn for moving a home game out of Lorman, let's say, to Jackson, I don't think they would do it. They would say, hell no.
No. Oh, no.
Okay. See?
No.
Keep that rascal home and home. That's just my
Somebody would probably lose their job over it. There will have to be some serious questions and calling to the carpet on that one. I can almost guarantee you that.
Be careful of the games that you move when you have a home game. Just be careful. Beware. We got about 13 minutes left. Today's show is going to end 30 minutes early because everyone has something to do besides the show. So we appreciate everybody's time. The standings, I kind of wanted to go over the standings.
Yeah.
On the men's side, well, let's start with the ladies. 12-2 Southern. They're on a 5-game winning streak. Texas Southern 13-3 on a 1-game losing streak. Boy, they faltered the last couple of games. Alabama A&M, they won 4 in a row. and they're 12-3. Jackson State a game back, 11-4. They're on a 2-game losing streak. Grambling State 9-6, Alcorn 8-7. Although Alcorn is on a 2-game winning streak on the lady side, and don't look now, but Prairie View and him on a 3-game winning streak. Big victory last week against Jackson State. On the men's side, Southern with a 3-game lead, 13-1, 3-game winning streak. And Charles, when you look at it, I must admit, see, I'm a Southernite. I'm arrogant and I'm cocky. I'll admit that. 18-9 overall. That's beautiful. They got a chance for 20 games. Win 20 games. They're on a 3-game winning streak. No one else has a winning record. We know why. We don't have to go in that discussion. Mm-hmm. They deserve, we're talking about feel-good awards. Give them the feel-good awards, the Purple Heart. Because what they've done, they've went out and they've been told to bring in X amount of dollars. And they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So we give them the Purple Heart Award. No, not Coach of the Year. because they went out and played all these guarantee games. But at least Texas Southern gets to keep the majority of their money. But anyway, I digress. Jackson State 10-4. They're on a 2-game winning streak. Bethune-Cookman 10-5 on a 2-game winning streak. Alabama State 9-6 on a 1-game losing streak. Then FAMU 9-6 in conference, 2-game losing streak. And then Alcorn 8-6 in conference, 2-game losing streak. And I don't know if it's me, Charles. When I watched the coach's show, Coach Bussey does he ever smile? That Coach Bussey looks tormented. he really does.
Yeah.
And overall, he's done a great job. He's so hard on himself. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I get it. But his stress level, he needs to calm down. He needs to do some daily deep breathing exercise.
Not gonna happen.
Let me just say this, Charles, from the outside looking in. He's come close. He's had an excellent tenure at Alcorn State. This year, they're just not the team that they've been in the past, Charles. They are not one of those teams. You have to accept it and move on, but they have another chance when the tournament starts.
Yeah.
Wipe the slate clean. Just give him that message for me. Tell him calm down.
Well, now that if you tell him to calm down, he's subject to punch your lights out. That's just how intense he is.
I'm glad I'm a counter boxer.
I mean, I have seen the most intense of Landon Bussey, and my guess is in this last week, I thought I saw it, the max, but I have not. This last week's been tough. The last 2 games have been tough. We have not led for 1 second of these last 2 games, and maybe 2 of the 3 biggest games of the year in conference for us. Monday night, Texas Southern will be here. That's another big game. And he's just disappointed in the level of focus and the level of intensity, the attention to detail. Now, he is calling himself out. He knows he's the head coach and it starts with him. Mm-hmm. But and for the first time the other night after Jackson State, he said, I'm lost. I'm at a loss. He was at a loss of words. He just can't figure it out. Over this last week, there's been some changes. We have a player no longer on the team, unfortunately, Keontae Cornelius. The Jackson State transfer is no longer on the roster, and so changes are being made, and he's going to get this thing figured out. Now, he did say this, Carlos, at the beginning of the season. He knew that this was going to be an uphill climb with this roster. New assistant coaches, he had to bring one back that was on the staff previously, but he knew that he was pretty much starting over, and so I think he just expected more. Based on track record, based on the level of intensity, he was just hoping that we'd be a little bit further along. We're not. We haven't. But yet we got 4 games to kind of show people that we will be right there in Atlanta. And right now we're a 7 seed. He assured me that we will not be a 7 seed going into the tournament. We're a half game behind FAMU and Alabama State. We got the tiebreaker on Alabama State, but not on FAMU. So it's moving out of that 7 seed is not determined by us. If FAMU gets back on track, we will be at 7. And then we're 2 games up on Grambling. We beat them. So we're 3 games up realistically with 4 games left. So us dropping below 7 looks like it's not going to happen. On paper, yeah, you can put that together, but probably not. So a 7 and higher is probably where we're going to be. And so he wants to at least get out of that 7 hole. It's not up to us at this point, but we got to come out. The first 5 minutes kind of set the table for us.
Well, let me say this. Texas Southern today, that's the boogeyman in all corners' mind.
Yeah.
This will be the perfect time to get that boogeyman out of your mind. Starting today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Texas Southern. I mean, you could never take your eye off what Johnny Jones is doing. You know, they won the tournament in the 8th seed. Like Chatterbox said a couple of weeks ago, they made a mistake and let Texas Southern in a couple of years ago. And I did an exhale when I saw that because I thought Texas Southern was done. I thought that they would not make the tournament, but they did. And I said, look out. And I said, uh-oh. And you saw what happened. But Texas Southern sitting in the cut. I think not as many people are talking about them. I think you and I are because we know what Johnny Jones has done as an 8 seed. Right now, I mean, a 2 seed is very much a possibility for them. But I think on the men's side, I mean, you got to still put Florida A&M in that conversation for being a tough out. I think Alabama State's a team that no one is talking about. Bethune-Cookman has been ravaged by injuries. They had a 6 or 7 man rotation. I mean, they got Thomas, who's really good, but that's all they've got. But Bethune-Cookman sitting there 10-5, they could be a 2 seed. They've been sitting in the cut for the last 2 or 3 years. People forgotten about Reggie Theus and that team. I haven't, but they just come up short. But if they get healthy by the tournament, look out. I mean, Southern University is the team to beat. There's no doubt about it. But there are a lot of teams nipping at their heels as far as the men's tournament is concerned. And I'm giving Kevin Johnson his flowers. Remember last year, he was a 2 seed going into the last game of the regular season. He wins that game, I think, against Alabama A&M. He's the number 2 seed.
Yeah, but they lost.
Well, I'm just looking at the regular season. After the year 1, you're the number 2 seed. You could have been. You were the 4 seed. They lost. So I'm looking at the fact that they still had a good year. And then year 2, you see what they're doing. 13-1 in conference. I thought what we'd be seeing now, we'd be seeing it next year. So Coach Johnson has done an outstanding job with a very good team that he took over, good roster, solid program, the history and all, and he's elevated it. A top 4 program, he's number 1 in the league.
That's because he's an outstanding coach. And he took the advice of Coach. He told me personally, he took the advice of Coach Pettaway, our consultant here.
Yeah.
Build a deep team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they have done. My bold statement said they would not fold. And I know some of you just knew they were going to fold based on the last couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tournament's going to be exciting. Wipe the slate clean. People can be at your heels. Everybody's going to be at everybody's heels because it's their chance.
Yeah.
You cannot overlook anybody. I don't care if Bethune-Cookman lost 7 or 8 players or whatever it was. They're going to play a great game today.
Yeah.
Sun's going to get everybody's best. Jackson State is going to get everybody's best. So players, injuries, no excuses. Everybody's going through that. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, who wins the regular season, then when the tournament starts, who's going to be the team that gets it done?
Yeah.
Both on men's and the women's side. It's my bold statement is it's going to be exciting.
Very.
That's what
Very
I
exciting.
believe in. Today's game, Charles, sticks out to you. What's the game of the week on the women's side and on the men's side?
I'm looking at Jackson State. I'm looking at Jackson State and Texas Southern. That's one game I'm looking at today. I'm looking to see if Coach Skeet's team can bounce back, and to be honest, Coach Richard's team bounce back.
Jax State needs a victory.
Yeah, and Nate Kilbert was telling me the other day. She told Coach Richards, he said, at some point your team gonna hit the wall, right? And I was saying, you told her that? Yeah, he told me the other day. He said, hey, we've been through our injuries early. I think Jackson's going through their stuff right now, late in the season. So that's one game that I'm really eyeing at this point. And then look, Prairie View beat Jackson. Sandy Pugh, I know a lot of people counted her out, but if we don't wake up and show up here today, Prairie View can come in here and spoil our Saturday. So I think at this point, there's going to be a number of games on the men's and women's side for positioning, trying to wrap up the regular season, trying to stay in first place. Southern University, Coach Funch has done an outstanding job at Hiccup against Alcorn, but they got off the mat. So I'm just looking forward to this last week. We got 1 week left in the regular season, 1 week. And I think a lot of positioning is left to be determined.
They call it March Madness for a reason.
Absolutely.
And that's where it starts. Play-in game, if we look ahead for the SWAC tournament champion, maybe not. Depends on who wins the tournament. But March Madness is, upsets. That's part of it. Close the comments, Charles. 12-29.
I'm going to make a bold prediction real quick. I think if Southern runs the table from where they are right now and wins the whole thing, I'm going to say Southern gets out of the play-in. If they win it all from here on out, they will probably, is my opinion, they would avoid the play-in game. So that's my bold prediction. And another bold prediction, I need to call Jeannie Buss. Everybody's on this Laker bandwagon. I know we haven't talked about the NBA.
I'm not convinced yet.
I'm not convinced. I love Luka. I love LeBron. This whole thing of being the face of the league, it just missed me with all that. I'm sorry. I'm of the Jordan era. I'm of the Kareem era. Those guys did it right. What LeBron is saying, I just don't understand it. I don't get it. But I'm not buying the Lakers yet. Let's see what happens when they get in the playoffs. Teams will figure you out. Teams will slow down Luka. They'll deal with LeBron. Lakers got to figure it out once they get in the playoffs. That's my judgment of it. And those are my closing comments.
On that note, we want to thank Melody, our producer, everyone in the chat room. We're cutting the show short 30 minutes today, but we'll be back full 2 hours next week. And I'll definitely have a lot to say. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.